The great Stephen Hawking, one of the most intelligent men who ever lived, said that people who boast about their IQ are losers. And he was right. Geniuses are not geniuses for their a massive brain power. They're geniuses for many of the unsexy things that they do that actually get them there to be recognized. Hello and welcome to The Growth Mindset, where we're talking about the unsexy habits of geniuses, because we talk about all the cool things and we admire these attributes that people have. And we don't actually look at the things that we could all be doing ourselves to become a bit more genius. Now, whether you wake up at 4 a.m. or 4 p.m., the specifics of your routine don't matter as much as finding a routine that works for you, sticking to it, and then getting a bunch of habits that are really going to set you up for being a genius. Number one, focus on other people's achievements and don't claim achievements as your own. You need to recognize anyone that helps you with the success that you get, because they're going to be able to help you get more success. And if you have a lot of talent, you really need all the help you can get to push that forwards, because it's just not going to happen by yourself. So compliment people on their skills, their dedication, and their hard work. They're always going to want you to be around to help them look good. When you do something that works well, talk about your luck in getting there and don't come across as smarmy and like super intelligent, because people can attribute that to you themselves. But if you're constantly doing it, it's actually kind of annoying and people don't want to talk about it like that. And make it so that people enjoy working with you and enjoy helping you to achieve success rather than making them feel like you're just always going to claim it all for yourself, because then you can get so much more help around you and you can get so much more done. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say." It's all about what you say. It's all well and good to think that you're humble, but actually going out there and being humble and not like trying to undermine people and make it so that you look good will always pay back. And that's something that just doesn't come naturally. And is something that if you think that you've got talented, will be hard to make yourself do, but it's an unsexy thing that is just such a smart move, hence being a genius habit. Now, number two, always focus on learning over things that pay you well or give you power. So you want to be changing industry, changing role to optimize for your knowledge and learning so that you have more capacity to do genius things rather than just trying to like optimize for money, because it's just an endless game that you'll always be chasing. Of course, in the long run, you do need some money and power, but that's going to come from accruing a lot more skills and knowledge in the first place that you can compound on. And then when you optimize for learning, that means you're going to be making more mistakes. And you want to be making mistakes regularly, because if you're not, that means you're not outside of your comfort zone and you're not trying hard enough. So don't be like reckless and always screw up, but purposefully be in areas where like you're not always getting things correctly. And that's going to maximize the amount of learning that you do. So for example, when I was learning to ski, I wanted to fall over at least once, because that meant that I'd just have to go and jump off a bigger jump, or I'd have to do like a bunch of tricks whilst I was trying to go down the hill. And it's always meant I was pushing the edge of my comfort zone and doing things that made me learn as fast as I could every day. And I became really good really quickly because of that. And then on my podcast, I had Antoine Blondeau, the founder of Siri. And you may hate Siri, but regardless, he managed to sell Siri to Apple for billions of dollars and became an investor in AI and all sorts of cool things because of his focus on learning. And he said every job he took, he'd always go into a different department and take a downgrade in pay so that he could like always learn new things and be on the edge of his comfort zone, rather than just trying to like go one up and always get higher pay, because it just didn't help him grow as fast as he knew he could be growing. And geniuses focus on learning because they just love learning rather than focusing on pay, because that's more important to them. And it's not sexy, but it's a habit that you'll need if you want to become a genius. Number three, be the dumbest person in the room. Now, this quite relates to number two, but it really helps keep you humble and it really keeps you learning as fast as possible, because if you're always the smartest, you don't have other people to learn from, and you're also less likely to have people proving you wrong and teaching you things. So you really want to try and convince people to let you into their groups where you're the least talented and the one that's going to make more mistakes, but they're going to spend time teaching you things. And you might have to do things like some boring tasks, or you might have to like ask a bit to actually be in these kind of rooms where you're the dumbest person. But it's so valuable to you. You can also join masterminds and things, or like create them yourself, where you just try and get really cool people in different areas together and just be around them all the time. You can also like facilitate people for their meetings and give them feedback on anything. So let's say there's a bunch of YouTubers that you want to be like, just like give them feedback on all of their videos every time on how you think they can improve and stuff, so that you're around these people that are doing better than you and can be teaching you things. And on the subject, also, if you're really talented in one area, it's very important to learn about other areas. So Steve Jobs, for example, used to go to random lectures at university that had nothing to do with like typography and other stuff, just because of he had no idea about these things, and it taught him stuff, and it really helped in later life in terms of getting into Pixar and like the way he sort of actually stylized everything that worked at Apple from all these other things that he'd been taking information from. Mr. Beast pays people to just come and teach him random stuff that he doesn't know because he didn't go to university, but he just wants to know so much things. And then Richard Feynman is like Nobel winning physicist, but he just went to like life drawing classes, and he became like a drummer in Brazil, just to do other things to keep him interested in just learn the art of learning and be around people that are much more intelligent than him, to keep him humble and to just foster that feeling that he isn't some kind of overly genius person that can't learn anything from other people. Because of, if you think you're a genius, you're actually really obstructing your ability to be a genius. And now on the subject of learning from others, number 4, making really good use of mentoring. Because this can make such a difference of having good mentors around you can grow your potential so much faster than just not having anyone. And it's not as hard as you think it is, because people really like helping others beneath them if these people are someone that they feel is actually going to learn from them. And so the first thing to do is always take account of the things that they say and make notes and say the things that you've learned from them and how you're going to maybe act on them. And you don't necessarily have to agree with them, but you have to have like listened and acknowledged what they've said. And if you are somehow like needy or cute, and like it can actually just play on their heartstrings to like give back and help people who are just in their steps, like a few steps behind. Another way to get mentors is to do something for them. So for example, with my podcast, I offer people a platform to get exposure, but actually I just get mentored by like bunches of people who have done crazy cool things, such as the founder of Siri, for free. And that's bloody cool. So you might not want to start a podcast, but there might be something you can do for someone, like I was saying earlier, in terms of just helping them. Like if you want to get help from a bunch of YouTubers, just talk to YouTubers and give them assessments of anything they can do, because they're always looking to improve themselves. You can also get mentoring from just peers and creating a culture of helping people around you and being in teams. So build networks, create events that bring people together around the kind of area that you really want to be growing in. And just always be humble and ask for help and admit the things that you don't know. That will keep you open to assistance and mentoring from people. And you just don't know who is going to come up with ideas for you or who's going to connect you to someone else. Many years ago, when I was starting my first business, I applied for a mentoring scheme with like Lloyd's Banking, because I was running this delivery company. And the guy I got matched with was a lovely person. But after 2 or 3 sessions, he was like, actually, I have no idea about your business area. And I can like tell you a bit about like banking, finance and things. But actually, I'm not really that much help. But I do have a friend that runs this logistics company that's doing lots of really big things similar to you. And he matched me with this guy who became my mentor for many years. But just by asking for people, I ended up being sent to the right people that could help me so much more. And now finally on the topic of mentoring is also mentoring yourself by mentoring others, because you should always mentor others that are slightly behind you. One, it's just a nice thing to do for giving back, and it will make you feel better about yourself and you'll be happier. 2, it'll build you connections to people who are maybe going somewhere if they're like really active. You have no idea what people do. Like I've mentored people that have now gone on to build crazy big companies, and they connect me to other good investments and things, and it's just helping my life in many ways. Most importantly is that mentoring actually helps you learn from your mistakes. Because honestly, when you're listening to other people, a lot of what they tell you, even if it is good advice, doesn't go in. But them telling you it is really helping them when they realize that they've made this mistake and what they've learned from it. So mentoring others helps you crystallize your own thinking about the mistakes that you make in life and what you should do next. Because when someone asks you about a problem that you've done wrong, you'll be like, oh, don't do that, do this instead. But whilst you're saying it, you'll probably realize that you're still doing the thing wrong at the moment and you need to change it. That's so valuable and can really help you move forwards faster. Part of being a genius is learning from your mistakes and improving. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we're faced with a crossroads in life and we don't know which path to take. Whether you're starting a career or changing a career, working out relationships or dealing with ingrained habits. Whatever it is, therapy can help you map out your future and trust yourself to find the way forward. I personally found BetterHelp a godsend to really help me think through my choices and actions at a deeply personal level. And what's great about BetterHelp is that it is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And you can be quickly matched to a licensed therapist, and you're allowed to switch at any time with no extra cost and no questions. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/growth mindset today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/growth mindset. And now, perhaps my favorite one, number 5, be embarrassingly weird and don't back out from that. It's said that talent can hit a target that no one else can hit, whilst genius can hit a target that no one else can see. People will call you crazy until they realize that you're a genius. And if you look at like the really groundbreaking big things that people do, it's always doing something that people think is bloody nuts. You have to have a very unconventional opinion if you're really going to change things in a big way. The problem with this is that a lot of unconventional opinions are just wrong because of conventions are there for a reason. They're things that work. And to be a genius, you have to have an unconventional opinion that's right, but you have to be used to having unconventional opinions or just being thought of as weird. Like Mr. Beast was a very unpopular YouTuber for many years who was a bit obsessed with YouTube before he became one of the biggest people on YouTube that everybody knows. And he just wasn't cool for a very long time, but he was okay with that. And so if something isn't embarrassing now or kind of uncomfortable, it's probably never going to be a path to being a genius. And it's also important to remember that the things that you get attention for are often not the things that you think might be most important about yourself. You kind of have to accept that the world isn't going to fully understand who you are or really ever know the true capabilities of you or why you're such a good person. And you're just going to have to be comfortable with being thought of as odd and not quite normal to really achieve the sort of success that you might be thinking of if you want to be a genius. Now, final one, number 6. Acknowledge that you'll always want to think that you're right. Humans are evolved to think that we're smart and that we're doing the right thing. And it's not in our nature to first look at ourselves and think that we are doing the wrong thing and we just want to blame the things around us and the people. Every driver thinks that they're quite good, despite the fact that it's just impossible for everyone who drives to be in the top 10% of drivers. As we hear information, if we listen to a podcast, reading a book, we'll think about why that fits what we want to think about ourselves rather than how we should actually change. It's really backwards to actually read something and think about why we're wrong all the time and why what we're listening to doesn't actually fit with what we're doing. Well, this is especially hard for people who are smart because you're probably used to being right anyway, and so you're less likely to be open to the idea that you're going to be wrong. But that's where some of your breakthroughs are going to come from because you're just not going to be able to think of everything all by yourself. And Bertrand Russell once said that the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are so certain of themselves, and yet wiser people are full of doubts. And to be wise, truly, is to actually doubt a lot of what you're thinking and be open to why it would be wrong. And that's where you're going to learn how to improve, because geniuses love learning and improving. Again, this one is a topic for an entire episode, and I think I have a good one in my backlog around ego and awareness of self if you want to go to that. And there is one final bonus tip on the subject of being a genius that, depending on who you are, some people are like, this is a very sexy thing to be doing, whilst other people think it's very unsexy. So it was kind of dubious as to whether this is an unsexy tip for geniuses. But Kathleen Windsor once said that the only genius that's really worth anything is the genius for hard work. And ultimately, if you want to do something big, if you want to change the world, if you want to put a dent in the universe, as they say, you're actually going to have to work hard. You can't just sit around knowing stuff and being really clever and not applying yourself. Einstein sort of barely slept for a whole year in his golden year of work, where he was just working as a patent attorney and like working all night writing his different theses on how the world works. And yet so many people just want the world to work for them and them to be like casually awesome. It's like, don't want to work too hard, but I do want people to recognize how brilliant I am and to just have like lots of cool stuff happen because of me, even though I'm not doing too much. You're going to have to come to terms with the fact that if you want to have a really outlier effect on humanity, you have to actually work super hard and put in the grind. I don't think it's that sexy. And it's not even that good for your mental health sometimes. There is a level of doing this. There's always balance. And like I do believe in the power of time off and finding a schedule that works for you. But you still do have to work hard and think very hard about the sort of sacrifices you're going to make and cut out a lot of things from your life to really apply yourself in the ways that might be called genius. So thanks for listening. These are some unsexy habits that are actually true and relevant for anyone that actually wants to be a genius and doesn't just think that they do. And on that, remember that life is to be enjoyed, and that starts with enjoying today. So be kind to yourself, and whilst you're at it, be kind to someone else.